Top 10 oil producing countries in the world. Hello explorers, welcome to another informative video presented to you by Displo, and thanks for watching. In this video, we shall look at the top 10 oil producing countries in the world. The Earth's crust seems to be one of the places God took out time to beautifully create, given the varying colors, textures and minerals available there. Oil, which is one of such minerals, has boosted the economies of many nations to gain world dominance and prominence. The discovery of oil in any country make or mar the economy in question, given the stakes in place. The production of oil globally in 2019 averaged 100 million barrels per day, with approximately 68% coming from 10 countries, with an overlapping 44% coming from the rest. The oil industry is one of the most watched sectors in the world, partly due to its reputation for high volatility. Like any other financial market, the biggest factor controlling the price of oil is the relationship between supply and demand. Supply factors that affect the price of oil include production decisions made by organizations of the petroleum exporting countries, OPEC, geopolitical issues, and severe weather conditions. Demand factors include reliance on oil, the price of the US dollar, and global economic performance. The top 10 biggest oil producers supply 71% of the world's oil, which is more than 100 million barrels per day. The oil is mainly used in transportation, but it also supports the production of certain lubricants, plastics, and pharmaceuticals. The two most popular oil benchmarks in the world are Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. According to the number of barrels per day (BPD), these are the top 10 oil producing countries in the world. Number 10. Kuwait, 2,940,000 barrels per day. Kuwait oil production is responsible for more than 60% of its GDP and more than 95% of its export revenue. Given the revenue and subsequent progress achieved by the sales of oil, Kuwait had plans to boost its production levels to 4 million BPD in 2020, but growth has slowed down due to the global pandemic. Despite the change in plans, Kuwait is still one of the top 10 oil-producing countries, whose output has been on an uphill for a while now. In 2016, production reached 3,072,000 BPD, then dropped to 2,825,000 BPD in 2017. In the year 2018, the country made a slight recovery, producing 2,870,000 BPD and was back up at 2,940,000 BPD in 2019. Because Kuwait is so dependent on oil production to maintain its economic standing, it may need to find another industry to boost its revenue. If not, the very fragile system might mar the economy when it drops. Number 9. Iran, 3,190,000 barrels per day. Iran has slashed crude oil production to its lowest level in the 4 decades, as storage tanks and vessels are almost full due to a drop in export. This slash in production has led to a decrease from 4,471,000 BPD in 2018 to 3,190,000 BPD. According to the EIA, Iran holds the world's 4th largest proven oil reserves and the world's 2nd largest natural gas reserves. Despite the country's abundance in reserves, Iran's oil production has substantially fallen in recent years, and natural gas production growth has been slower than expected. Changing economic conditions have caused Iran to lower its oil revenue expectations from 29% of GDP in 2019 to just 9% for 2020. However, it remains committed to its investment in oil, with the aim of injecting over $500 billion into the sector by 2025. Number 8. Brazil, 3,678,000 barrels per day. Oil production in Brazil has been on an overall increasing trend since 2008, when it amounted to less than 2 million barrels per day. Since then, production has increased by nearly 53%, reaching an average of 2.88 million barrels per day. Last year, Brazil's oil production jumped dramatically from 3,428,000 BPD in 2018 to 3,678,000 BPD. The recent surge in production and exports is said to be the result of years of large investments by state-run Petróleo Brasileiro, or Petrobras. Unfortunately, like most oil production countries, Brazil's oil exports decreased in recent months due to the lower global demand. The country holds less than 1% of the world's oil reserves, enough to last around 15 years. Number 7. United Arab Emirates, 4,010,000 barrels per day. The United Arab Emirates is an OPEC member and has ranked amongst the top 10 oil-producing countries for decades. According to UAE State of Energy report of 2019, UAE has estimated 98 billion barrels of oil reserves. In 2018, it saw a small decrease in production from the previous year's 3,791,000 BPD. However, it appears that oil output has stabilized and is back up front to 4,010,000 BPD. The country holds the world's 7th largest proven oil reserves at 97.8 billion barrels according to the UAE State of Energy Report of 2019, with most of those reserves located in Abu Dhabi. The other 6 Emirates combined account for just 6% of the country's total reserves. Number 6. Iraq, 4,740,000 barrels per day. In the year 2017, despite increasing its output, Iraq got bumped from 6th place by Iran on this top 10 oil-producing countries list. Output in 2018 helped the nation regain its 6th spot position. The Middle Eastern country marginally increased its oil production from 4,616,000 bpd in 2018 to 4,740,000 bpd in 2019. It holds the world's 5th largest proven oil reserves at 144 billion barrels. That represents nearly 18% of the reserves in the Middle East and almost 9% of global reserves. The most important oil field in Iraq currently is the southern field of Rumelia, which accounts for about 1.6 million barrels per day. Other large southern fields include Al Zubai, Misan, and the West Kuna. Number 5. China, 4,890,000 barrels per day. China has one of the world's largest strategic oil reserves, which is stockpiles of crude oil held by countries and privately for national security during energy crisis. China's annual oil output increased in 2019, going up to 4,890,000 bpd from 4,779,000 bpd in 2018. China is the world's 2nd largest consumer of oil and moved from being the 2nd largest net importer of oil to the largest in 2014. Of the top 10 oil-producing countries, China is the world's most populous country and has a rapidly growing economy, factors that have driven its high overall energy demand. This is why the impact of the coronavirus on demand from China could have a significant effect on the market. The EIA estimates that China's domestic petroleum and other liquids consumption averaged 13.9 million bpd in Q1 2020, a decline of 0.6 million bpd from 2019 annual average, primarily as a result of the Chinese government's containment measures related to the coronavirus outbreak. Number 4. Canada, 5,500,000 barrels per day. Canada has been on a surge in oil production from a production of 3.5 million barrels a day in 2013 to 5.5 million bpd in 2019, surpassing 2018's 5,295,000 barrels per day. Nearly all of Canada's proven oil reserves are located in Alberta, and according to the province government, 97% of oil reserves there are in the form of oil sands. Energy exports to the US accounts for the vast majority of Canada's total energy exports. However, because of economic and political considerations, Canada is developing ways to diversify its trading partners, especially by expanding ties with emerging markets in Asia. Canada is slowly climbing the list of leading oil producers, up from number 5 to number 4. Production is said to increase by more than 120% by 2050, surpassing the growth rate of all non-OPEC countries. Though the drastic increase in production may be expensive, as most of Canada's oil, about 96%, comes from oil sands, the country has access to the technology to bring the cost down. Further plans for the future include expansion to trade agreements, which is expected to be concluded by December 2022. Number 3. Russia, 11,490,000 barrels per day. Russian oil output has been increasingly steady over the years, growing from 11,401,000 bpd in 2018 to 11,490,000 bpd as of last year. Despite coming in third, Russia is the world's largest producer of crude oil and the 2nd largest producer of dry natural gas, according to the EIA. Most of Russia's reserves are located in West Siberia, between the Ural Mountains and the Central Siberian Plateau, as well as in the Urals-Volga region, extending into the Caspian Sea. Overall production growth between 2018 and 2019 was less than 1%, as OPEC and large Russian oil producers agreed to slow down production due to lower oil prices. Then, in early 2020, COVID-19 curbed output by up to 20%. As of June 2020, Russia is the 5th largest consumer of oil, consuming up to 3.31 billion bpd, and that accounts for about 4% of the world's total. Number 2. Saudi Arabia, 11,810,000 barrels per day. Saudi Arabia possesses roughly 18% of the world's proven petroleum reserves and ranks as the largest exporter of petroleum. As a result of this, the oil and gas sector accounts for about 50% of its GDP and about 85% of its export earnings. Saudi Arabia's output came in at 12,419,000 bpd in 2018 and declined to 11,810,000 in 2019. In 2020, Saudi Arabia plays a key role in OPEC's decision to curb oil output, and the country is now set to cut production by 3.3 million barrels a day from its current output levels to meet the conditions of the deal signed with other OPEC members and allies. Number 1. United States, 19,510,000 barrels per day. The number one producer, producing a whopping 19.51 million barrels per day, is the United States of America. It produced the most oil in 2019, with output increasing from 17,886,000 bpd in 2018 to 19,510,000 bpd. The US has been described as a swing producer because production fluctuates alongside market prices. Oil is produced in 32 states and in US coastal waters, the majority of 41% of which is drilled in Texas. One of the main reasons why the US is a leader in oil production is because it was the first country to adopt new methods of drilling. In addition to being a major oil producer, the US is a big consumer of oil. In 2019, the US took in a total of 7.47 billion barrels of petroleum products, which is an average of 20.46 million bpd. The coronavirus pandemic has hit the US crude in 2020, with production expected to slump by 470,000 bpd and demand set to plunge by about 1.3 million bpd in 2020, according to the EIA. But then, the nation still stands at number one spot. There you have it, explorers. Those were the top 10 oil producing countries in the world. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video, do want to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.